Hey, in this video, I'm going to review something I just got recently, Pokemon Green version. And when I did my Game Boy Collection review a couple weeks ago, I definitely wanted to include this game, but I didn't receive it in the mail yet at the time. It takes a while to receive something if you import from Japan. So obviously, this is the Japanese version. This particular version didn't come out in the U.S. back in the day. And if you're ever wondering why, when they released the Game Boy Advance remakes, they were Fire Red and Leaf Green, as opposed to like Fire Red and Ocean Blue or something. It's mainly because uh, Red and Green were the original versions actually, and then the blue version came out afterwards as like the third version, and then they released a fourth version with yellow, and they decided to skip green when it hit the U.S. And it's kind of interesting because I bet if you were to poll Americans about what their favorite starting Pokemon from these original games, I'd say Charmander would win by a landslide, and then Squirtle would be in second, and then way at the bottom would be Bulbasaur, just because I don't know. I think that's just the way it was in America. I wonder how it would be like in Japan, but personally, I'd say Squirtle, Bulbasaur, and then Charmander. I like them all a lot actually, but I kind of like Bulbasaur because I like Leech Seed a lot, the move. And I kind of like moves like Toxic. So I then Charmander is hugely popular. I remember when the card game was there, Charizard was like the most sought after thing ever. But anyway, I wanted to get this particular version because, um, as some people may know, the original red and green versions in Japan have different sprites, and they're really, really like rudimentary. They barely even look like the Pokemon most of the time that we know now, and that's it was definitely unintentional because if you look inside of the manual of this green version, which we'll do in a bit, it has the artwork of the Pokemon that we know now. So I mean, it was basically a limitation of the Game Boy that the sprites look so weird. And I also just wanted it just as kind of a curiosity piece because when Red and Green came out, this was before Nintendo knew what they had in this series. Like, by the time Red and Blue came out in America, like the series was already huge in Japan, and they knew it would be huge in America, but which is why they released the game, the card game, and the anime simultaneously. It's like this three-pronged attack because they knew it would be huge worldwide. But yeah, this game came out before all like the Pokemania or whatever. It doesn't even have like this was before they decided that Pikachu was like their mascot, and you can tell just by looking at the cover that I can't read this, but you can tell that connectivity was a huge aspect. And if you read the development history, that was one of the biggest points of why they made the game. Trading was a huge deal, and the Mario and Zelda creator Shigeru Miyamoto supposedly was the one who suggested that they make two versions so that it would make it more. It would what's the word? Well, it would kind of nurture this aspect of trading and battling and stuff like that because each version would have exclusive Pokemon. And yeah, it has a Super Game Boy logo. This game came out in like '97 or '96. I think '97. No, actually, might have been '96. I should have looked it up, but yeah, that was like right when the N64 came out. The Super Game Boy was still a viable platform. And if we look at the back, let's do the Super Game Boy once again. We can see Bulbasaur, no Pikachu as you can see. We also have this Charmander facing a Pidgeotto, and you can't see it since this camera is pretty low resolution, but it's a level 5 Charmander facing a level 18 Pidgeotto, so it doesn't look too good for him. I don't know why they chose that particular screenshot. And yeah, and there's this random Cerulean City screenshot. So that's the box. And looking at the cartridge, as you can see, it's a regular gray cartridge, and unlike in America, all of the Pokemon cartridges were gray. It was kind of a cool thing by Nintendo of America to, to make them colored cartridges, which they stopped doing since the DS games came out, unfortunately. But it's definitely one of my favorite things back in the day, especially like if you look at Pokemon Emerald, it looks incredible. And I kind of brought this side by side so you can see this is the blue version that I originally bought back in the day. Obviously, it's a colored cartridge, and I also still have the box. And obviously, they have the catchphrase, "Gotta catch them all." You gotta have that catchphrase. I knew would be huge. You can tell they knew they had hit on their hands by this point. And they actually have the same screenshot from the Pokemon Green version, the Cerulean City one. And you can't see it on the camera since, once again, the resolution's pretty bad and doesn't have much clarity. But where it says Mart, where you buy stuff, it says Shop. Which is funny because that's what it says on the green version, so it's clear that they didn't change the screenshot at all. And this one is just a Sandshrew versus Meowth. They decided to go differently on this one. And the funniest thing is that it talks about how you can play on your Super Nintendo and play on Super Game Boy, which this game came out in 1998, late 98, and the Super Nintendo had been long dead at that point, so it's funny that they still had to promote this feature 2 years after it came out from Japan. And obviously you can see Pikachu is on the back. I really like this old art style, by the way, like these old drawings, like Snorlax, and then there's Cubone on the top. There's a Gengar. They look really sharp on the box. But let's take a look at what's inside. Because it's interesting to see, since I didn't know they had a hit on their hand yet. We know how ambitious their plans were for this game, for this series, but I'm not sure what they exactly thought it would become. So, one of the things they did include is a pretty nice, let's see, town map of the Pokemon world, or the Kanto region anyway. Not that they knew that there were going to be other ones. And I can't read this, of course, but looks like kind of have a description of each city. It's pretty cool. I don't think they had that in the American version. Unfortunately, if they did, I don't have the insert anymore for my blue version. I'm pretty sure they didn't have a map though. And this is where they put the cartridge. I already took it out, obviously. And then here's the manual. Now it's interesting because it's in full color, as you can see. Oh wait, let's see. Let's take a flip back to it. So you can see that the Kabuto art, the art for Kabuto was already finalized, but in the game he looks kind of creepy. But just because they didn't, the Game Boy had it was so low powered at that point. It was already underpowered when it came out back in '89, but it was definitely underpowered by '97 or '6. And I don't know, it has a lot of neat stuff in it, like has all the gym leaders and some information on them. It just has full color. It has it just tells you a lot of information about the game, and then to get you started near the end of the manual, they have sort of descriptions of the first few Pokemon you're going to encounter in the game. Like Caterpie and Ekans, and goes all the way up to, I don't know why the Kakuna is the last one, but, yep. Oh, it's a cool manual, and unfortunately it doesn't have the, as far as I know, when I was flipping through it doesn't have the weakness charts, which were huge if you, because I know the weakness and strength charts are confusing to a lot of people, like, because it's kind of arbitrary for some of them, like why is poison good against grass, or why is electricity not good against grass, stuff like that. But I don't know, the chart, it might be in there, but it wouldn't be in a chart form. I wouldn't been able to read it, so I don't know. They took it out of the recent Pokemon games too in America, the weakness charts. So I guess you have to look at them online. Unfortunately, I don't know where my Pokemon Blue manual is. I was looking through my big box where I put all my manuals for my older games, and I found Pokemon Gold, that manual. I also found like Clay Fighter 63 and a third. I don't know why I still have that manual, but couldn't find my blue version manual, unfortunately. I believe that was in color too. So, it's kind of just interesting historically looking at Pokemon Green, and there's a great development story behind it. It almost didn't get made. It was like this, they went way over budget. The creator had to live on his father's salary. He lived with his dad near the end because he couldn't pay his employees and he wasn't paid himself. They were just trying to get this game finished. They wanted to make it great. And I remember listening to one of those one-up podcasts where Garnet Lee, the host, said that this game was made by like a marketing team, and that actually offended me kind of, just because that couldn't be further from the truth. And this was like a passion project. But yeah, it's just interesting to see, the roots of this series. And I was trying to see if I could play this on Pokemon Stadium, just because you in that game you can kind of emulate your Pokemon games and play them on the big screen on with triple speed. So the grinding doesn't take as long, which is what I'm doing right now with Pokemon Yellow. Actually, for some reason, it's been kind of a cool experience. I haven't played in a while since I usually play the remakes, but Yellow's still very playable. There's something really comforting about. I know everything about these games. Like I used to play them all the time, and I know like all like the exact pixel where if you step on it, then Gary will appear, your rival, or where to get each Pokemon, and where to get each item, all that stuff. It's really great and comforting, and like the music's really nostalgic for me. So it's been a really cool experience. Unfortunately, you can't play this on Pokemon Stadium, the U.S. version. And it's kind of interesting because in Japan, their Pokemon Stadium 1 is kind of the same as this Pokemon Green, where their Pokemon Stadium wasn't very full featured, and their Pokemon Stadium 2 was our Pokemon Stadium 1. So, one day I would like to maybe import their version of Pokemon Stadium 1, but I don't. I'd have to mod my N64 to play Japanese games, but that would be pretty interesting to see where that. Because I really do like the Pokemon Stadium series because the AI isn't that bad for the computer. It's kind of really fun to use your Pokemon from these games and battle semi-realistically. Obviously not as good as playing real people, but it's pretty damn close. And playing the game itself, it's pretty interesting. Like I said, there are some changes, like the sprites are different, and what they call the mart in the U.S. version, like I said, they call it the shop in the Japanese version, which is weird because nobody really refers to them as shops, as marts in the U.S. So I don't know why they had to change it. But a lot of the other stuff is, pretty much the same, but it is interesting. Just kind of like a localization thing where you can tell this game was made in Japan because if you play the Japanese version, the text is like perfectly fits each box, and there isn't much scrolling or anything. You don't have to press A lot because everything fits perfectly. But in the U.S., like they use bigger text, and obviously English takes a lot. We use more characters to express thoughts, so you have to press A lot to read through everything. So that's kind of interesting in a way. But yeah, I'm going to play more and more of this just to kind of see the differences. I don't really need to know Japanese because I know everything from the back of my, I know everything about this game, and I even know like how to save and everything without even, reading. You know how many spaces from the top the save button is or the Pokedex button is, so it's it's kind of fun just to see where the series began, and it doesn't cost that much off eBay to get a complete copy. Unfortunately, these days it's a little more expensive because the yen is so much stronger than the dollar. So, still not a bad price for what you're getting. And hope you enjoyed this video, and hope to make more of these. And I will do my Game Boy Color collection eventually. Take care.